The greatest secrets the world deliberately forgot. 10 astonishing facts about Islam's Golden Age that transformed humanity, yet almost never appear in any school textbook. Imagine if you knew that without Islamic civilization, you wouldn't be able to read the numbers on this screen. No calculator, no map, no anesthesia before surgery. Even the word alcohol you say every day, that's Arabic. But the world has never told this story fully. Why? Before you scroll, this narrative holds facts that even many Muslims themselves don't know. If you skip it, you'll miss one of the greatest truths hidden from the history books. Fact 1. The world was dark for 500 years, but not for Muslims. Western history calls it the Dark Ages, the era between the fall of Rome and the rise of the Renaissance. Europe was indeed dark: plague, ignorance, endless war. But in one corner of the world, the brightest light human civilization had ever seen was blazing. Baghdad, a city founded in 762 CE by Caliph al-Mansur of the Abbasid dynasty. Within less than 50 years, it transformed from empty land into the largest and wealthiest city on earth, surpassing Constantinople, surpassing Chang'an in China, surpassing everything that existed. 1 million, Baghdad's population in the 9th century. 500,000, titles held in the House of Wisdom Library. 800 CE, when Islam's golden age of science began. This was the home of Bayt al-Hikma, the House of Wisdom, which was not merely a library. It was the greatest institution of research, translation, and scientific debate the world had ever seen before modern universities were born. Muslim scholars didn't just read ancient Greek knowledge, they dissected it, challenged it, developed it, and surpassed it entirely. The ink of a scholar is holier than the blood of a martyr, a hadith that became the foundation of Islamic intellectual culture for centuries.
Fact 2. The inventor of algebra wasn't Western, and his name lives in your daily life. Have you heard the name Al-Khwarizmi? Probably not, but you use his legacy every single day. The word algorithm, the foundation of every computer program, artificial intelligence, and Google search, comes from his name, Algorithmus, the Latin rendering of Al-Khwarizmi. He wrote a book titled Kitab al-Mukhtasar fi Hisab al-Jabr wal-Muqabala around 820 CE. From the term al-Jabr came the word algebra, the science used today to build bridges, launch rockets, and predict weather. But more astonishingly, Al-Khwarizmi was also the one who introduced the Hindu-Arabic numeral system to the Islamic world, which then spread to Europe and replaced the cumbersome Roman numerals. Without him, the modern computer might never have existed because computers run on numbers, and the numbers we use today are indirectly his legacy. Before Al-Khwarizmi, Europeans were still trading with Roman numerals like XVIMCDXLI. Try calculating business profit with something like that. Fact 3. The world's first hospital was not in America or Europe. Before Europe even knew how to separate infectious diseases from ordinary illness, the Islamic world already had a sophisticated hospital system. Bimaristan al-Mansuri in Cairo, built in 1284 CE, was one of the most remarkable. This hospital had separate wards for different diseases, a cooling system with running water, musical entertainment for mentally ill patients, and, most shockingly, free healthcare for everyone, regardless of social status, religion, or race. Patients were even given pocket money upon discharge to buy food during their recovery. Verified historical fact. Ibn Sina, known to the West as Avicenna, wrote the Canon of Medicine, Al-Qanun fi al-Tib, a medical encyclopedia that served as the mandatory textbook at European universities for over 600 years, well into the 17th century. 600 years. European doctors learned from a Muslim. Ibn Sina was also the one who first identified that diseases could spread through air and water, centuries before Louis Pasteur formally established germ theory in the 19th century. This means the concept of quarantine used during the COVID-19 pandemic traces its foundations to an 11th century Muslim physician's writings.
Fact 4. The first human to fly was a Muslim, 700 years before the Wright brothers. The year 852 CE, in the city of Cordoba, Spain, then under Islamic rule, a man named Abbas ibn Firnas did something no human had ever done before. He covered himself with feathers, attached wings made of silk, climbed the highest tower in the city, and leaped. He glided. He flew, though his landing was poor and injured his back. He even understood why he failed to land smoothly, because eagles land by lifting their tail, yet he had not attached a tail to his design. This is not legend. It was recorded by the 17th century Moroccan historian al-Makari, citing earlier historical sources. Abbas ibn Firnas was the first human to scientifically design and attempt to fly a human-powered aircraft 1,000 years before the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk. Baghdad's international airport is named after him, yet how many aviation history books in the world actually mention his name? Fact 5. The first world map, south on top, north at the bottom. In 1154 CE, a Muslim geographer named Al-Idrisi completed something even European kings marveled at, an extraordinarily detailed world map, crafted in pure silver for King Roger II of Sicily. The map stretched from East Asia to Western Europe, but there was one thing that made it radically different from every map that followed. Al-Idrisi's map placed south at the top. Why? Because Al-Idrisi came from the Islamic world, and in Muslim scholarly tradition, the south, the direction of Mecca from most Muslim lands, was placed at the top as a mark of reverence. When this map arrived in Europe and was copied by European cartographers, they flipped it. North went to the top, and from that moment, the entire world adopted the north-up orientation, not because it is scientifically superior, but because European cartographers were more comfortable with the direction familiar to them. We inherited a European perspective on the world map without ever asking why.
Fact 6. Coffee, the drink that changed the world, born in Muslim lands. Today, coffee is the second largest commodity in the world after crude oil. Billions of cups are consumed daily. Yet few know that coffee was first discovered, processed, and popularized by Islamic civilization. The legend begins in Ethiopia. A shepherd named Kaldi noticed his goats becoming hyperactive after eating red berries from a certain tree. But it was the Sufi mystics of Yemen in the 15th century who first processed those beans into a drinkable brew. They needed something to keep them awake during long nights of devotional prayer, zikr, that lasted for hours. The world's first café, the Kahveh Khaneh, was born in Mecca and Constantinople around 1475. These places became centers of intellectual discussion, commerce, and the exchange of ideas. When coffee eventually reached Europe through Venetian traders, European coffee houses imitated the same concept, and from that, the café culture we know today as Starbucks was born. Every cup of coffee you drink in the morning carries within it the long history of Islamic civilization, from the highlands of Yemen to the cup in your hand. Fact 7. Modern astronomy is impossible without Arabic star names. Open any star chart. Look at the names: Aldebaran, Betelgeuse, Rigel, Deneb, Altair, Algol, Vega, all Arabic names. This is no coincidence. It is evidence that modern astronomy was built on foundations laid by Muslim scientists during Islam's Golden Age. Al-Battani, a 9th century Muslim astronomer, calculated the length of the solar year with stunning accuracy: 365 days, 5 hours, 46 minutes, and 24 seconds. The modern value we use today is 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 45 seconds. The difference is just 2 minutes and 21 seconds, with no telescope, no computer, using only observation and mathematics. Ibn al-Haytham, called the father of optics, wrote Book of Optics, Kitab al-Manazir, explaining how the eye works, how light travels, and laying the theoretical groundwork for the camera obscura. Without his work, there would be no eyeglasses, no cameras, no Galileo's telescope. Enduring legacy. NASA and the International Astronomical Union, IAU, officially use Arabic names for hundreds of stars to this day. Every time an astronaut looks at a star and calls it by its official name, they are, knowingly or not, speaking the legacy of a Muslim scholar.
Fact 8. A monument to tolerance, when three faiths lived side by side in Muslim Spain. Cordoba, the 900 CE. While Europe burned in religious wars, book burnings, and persecution of those who believed differently, in Andalusia, under Muslim rule, something extraordinary was happening. Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived together, traded together, built knowledge together. Jewish scholars like Maimonides wrote their great philosophical works in Arabic. Churches and synagogues stood alongside mosques. This is known in history as la convivencia, the coexistence. The Library of Cordoba under Caliph al-Hakam II held more than 400,000 books, while the largest library in Christian Europe at the time held only a few hundred manuscripts. The city of Cordoba had street lighting, clean water systems and public pharmacies, while major European cities were still struggling with basic sanitation. Fact 9. The tragedy that changed everything, when the world's greatest library was burned. The year 1258 CE, Mongol forces under Hulagu Khan besieged Baghdad. In 3 weeks that would alter the course of human civilization, the largest city in the world was destroyed. What was most devastating was not only the massacre of hundreds of thousands of residents. What was most devastating was when the entire contents of Bayt al-Hikma were thrown into the Tigris River. Hundreds of thousands of books, perhaps equivalent to all accumulated human knowledge at that time, were hurled into the water until it turned black with ink. Muslim historians wrote that the river ran black for days, red with human blood, black with the ink of knowledge. The world will never know how much wisdom was lost forever on that day. Many historians believe that had Bayt al-Hikma not been destroyed, the world might have reached the Industrial Revolution 200 to 300 years earlier. Vaccines, electricity, flight. Perhaps all of them would have arrived in the 14th century, not the 19th or 20th. The tragedy of Baghdad was not only Islam's tragedy, it was a tragedy for all of humanity.
Fact 10. English words born from Arabic, far more than you think. Language is the most honest trail civilization leaves behind, and within the English language, which today serves as the world's international tongue, hundreds of words trace directly back to Arabic, proof of how deeply Islamic civilization shaped the modern world. Alcohol, from al-Kul, a fine antimony powder used in ancient Arab cosmetics. Algebra, from al-Jabr, as already discussed. Alchemy, from al-Kimia, the root of the word chemistry. Admiral, from Amir al-Bahar, meaning commander of the sea. Assassin, from Hashishin, the name of a medieval militant sect. Candy, from Kandi, processed cane sugar. Coffee, from Kahwa. Sofa, from Sufa, a cloth-padded bench. Zero, from Sif, the concept of nothingness introduced to Europe through Arabic mathematics. Every time you speak these words, you are speaking the language of a civilization the world tried to forget. But language cannot lie, and it cannot be erased that easily. Why is this hidden? The most honest question is, why is so little of this taught? The answer is not a simple conspiracy. It is a combination of historical bias inherited from the era of colonialism, in which the West positioned itself as the sole source of civilization and progress. It is the result of curricula written by the victors, and for centuries, the victors were European. But history cannot be burned forever. Like the Arabic words hidden inside the English language, truth always finds its way. Islamic civilization is not a past to be mourned. It is living proof that when human beings, of any faith, race, or background, choose knowledge over ignorance, dialogue over war, and building over destruction, the result is a renaissance that changes the world. And perhaps precisely at the moment the world needs it most, the memory of that civilization needs to be awakened once more. This narrative is only the tip of the iceberg. There are thousands of other facts waiting to be told. The best history is told honestly, to anyone willing to listen.